Hi, this is Rick.
And this is Steve.
Welcome to
Smack to the Preacher.
And today we are talking about law and order. Because that is what religion's for, right? Law and order?
That does seem to be a recurring theme.
That's its purpose.
Yes.
To say, God says, the church says, the Pope says, the preacher says,
Bible says.
the Bible tells me, da da da, and it's the Word of God, and so it has to be obeyed. And the idea that that's what religion is for is extremely prevalent. I mean, it's throughout history that that's the point. That there's that religious practice is about rules and following rules. That's it. That's all we have today.
See you next week.
Maybe one more thing I'd like to throw in, which is there's a balance for that in the spiritual tradition, all great spiritual traditions, which is that there is the spirit and then there's the law.
Okay.
And spirit doesn't necessarily obey the law.
Or certainly pushes the boundaries of the law.
Where's the law? Let me come over and push it. Which is interesting to look at the Jewish and Christian scriptures, how on the one hand there's law and order and culture and how you behave and the priest or the king, and on the other hand there's the prophets and the spirit, which informs, animates, or hits up against and fights against order. And the prophets come and raise all kinds of... And Moses speaks in the prophetic tradition to Egypt and says, yeah, I get the way that things work here. We're not doing that. We're going to break the rules.
We're going to make some changes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then the new regime comes along and it doesn't want anybody to break the rules. It wants everybody to behave. Jesus comes and says, I didn't come to throw out the law, I came to fulfill the law, but pretty much all the laws that we all obey, I'm not going to obey any of those laws.
Right. Or certainly not in the way they've been traditionally interpreted.
Right. Which makes it problematic for Christians, in my opinion, in my experience, because Jesus is a lawbreaker. So that's why we have such strong rules and regulations as Christians, because Jesus is all about law. That's not true.
Oh.
Not all about law. He's a troublemaker. He's a hellraiser.
So if he wasn't all about laws, how come so many of the people that came right after him and their teachings are so law-oriented?
Yeah.
We were mentioning this, talking about this earlier. It seems like Jesus spent so much of his time speaking to his disciples saying, no, that's not really what I meant, or that's not what you should be taking away from this. Here's what I meant. And correcting them and bringing them back in and taking them away from their old way of thinking into new. And yet after Jesus had passed away, his followers went right back to
rules and regs.
Rules and regs, that's right.
The early Christian traditions, the writings of Paul and the pastoral epistles, and this is how women are supposed to behave, and this is how you're supposed to talk, and this is how you're supposed to be organized, and this is what an elder is, and this is da-da-da-da, and then it just goes from there, and it never stops.
It's like he tore down all these barriers to direct interaction with God, and then immediately after he was gone, we started building them all right back up again.
So as a kind of person who, by nature, I'm not really a law and order kind of person, let me throw the other thing out, which is, and yet some law and order is good, in my experience. I was just watching Richard Pryor live on the Sunset Strip from back in the, whatever that was, 70s, 80s. And he was saying that when he and Gene Wilder went and made the movie Stir Crazy at the prison in Arizona, after spending some time with the inmates there, he was really glad that there are prisons. Because they're just people who have no conscience and know they're sociopathic, and hooray for law and order.
Well, and I think in the same way that Jesus said, I'm not coming here to destroy the law, but to follow it, he felt the same thing that you're kind of leaning towards, which is that laws exist because there's a legitimate reason for us to take certain actions under certain circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very easy once you have a law in place or you have a general concept that everybody agrees on, to then extrapolate that into other circumstances
Mm-hmm.
that are outside of the reason for the original law or the spirit of it.
Spirit of the law.
Yeah.
Reason for the law. As opposed to, we have to follow the letter of the law.
Yeah.
I'd be curious, I'm sure we both would, to see what you think about whether we need to follow, especially in religious traditions.
Mm.
I mean, I don't care if somebody's fully immersed or not in baptism. Could not care less.
Right.
But that may be wrong. I may be wrong. There may be
There's
really
some people
important.
who are very,
Absolutely. It may be that it does not matter, but it may be that it does matter, and I may be going to go to hell. So on that note, that's all I have.
I would probably agree with you that that's not the case, but what do I know?
For millions of people, it is the case.
It is. That is
That's
very true.
based on their understanding of their faithful following of Jesus or whatever, the church. But like, really? Seriously?
Well, I've said this before, probably, and if I haven't, I probably will start saying it a whole lot now.
I want you to.
Thank you.
I don't even know what it is.
I'm not even sure.
That's
Forgot.
fine.
No,
Go.
I'm just kidding.
Go.
No matter what you believe, there's somebody who thinks you're going to hell for believing that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, are you going to believe what you believe, or are you going to believe what somebody else wants you to believe?
Yeah.
Because if you compromise and you're believing what somebody else wants, then you're going to hell, by that same prescription. Somebody thinks you're doing the wrong thing. So if you're going to hell anyway, you might as well do what you think is right and what feels right and what is right.
Somebody thinks I'm going to hell, so
Other people's judgment isn't really all that.
I better get on about my business. Or as the great Bernie Mac said, I don't care if you like me, I like me.
Well, yeah, exactly. And I think that's more in the spirit of what Christ was trying to encourage us to believe anyway.
Although that could be wrong.
And we'd love to hear from you
Yes,
if you
we
think
would.
that's wrong, because we want to learn.
Yes.
And we want to hear from you.
Yeah. So let us know.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye-bye.
And then